Hey guys, in today's video, let's create a sci-fi drone here in Maya, right? So I'm going to be thinking of this as sort of both. Like this could be maybe a game model, and at the same time, I'm really just interested in a pretty render that I could do here in Maya, right? So to get started, let's just figure out what part of the drone we want to start modeling, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab a cylinder, and let's just start kind of doing these side jets pieces first. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to decide on the thickness of these guys, so maybe something like that. We can always go to attribute editor, or I mean channel box, and let's go ahead and make sure it's centered, right? And next, what I would like to do is I'm going to go back into my attribute editor, go to polycylinder, and I'm fine with this subdivision being 20, but I do want to turn off my caps. And the reason for that is because then I can quickly start modeling more detail here, right? So what I would like to do is I'm going to press Ctrl E, and let's just maybe pull these in and do something like that. We can do Ctrl E again, pull it down, and let's just maybe one more time do something like this. And just try and create something interesting, right? I'm going to go up and maybe do something like this and do Ctrl E again. I'm just going to keep doing it until I have more and more detail. And maybe I'll pull this down right like this, right? So this is going to be my kind of the side jet things. Another thing I could do is maybe let's double click on this edge, holding down the shift key. I'm going to double click on this one. And let's go ahead and do the same thing here and here. Or no, not the bottom one. I'm just going to do these right here. And I'm going to bevel them. So I'm going to click bevel. I'm going to make it kind of tight point. Let's do 0.1, or yeah, let's do 0.1. All right. And let's think about this guy. So right now, he is one ginormous face, right, with all these different edges. So what I could do is I can do Ctrl E, I can pull him in, something like that, and then I can press delete. Now, the reason I deleted it is because I don't want that face with all those edges looking the way it did, right? So what would be a quick way to kind of turn this into more of a quad kind of topology? Well, I could select both of these edges and can do a bridge, right? Could do that. And then let's go ahead and do maybe this here, press G, and do these here, press G. And let's go ahead and do the same thing here. All right, and now what I can do is I can double click on this, press G, double click, and very quickly you can see what I did. I just kind of turned it into a much prettier edge flow instead of having that other one, right? So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to grab my cut tool. Let me just make maybe a couple cuts as well. Press enter, and now I have something like this, right? Very cool. Let's not have this go to waste, so let's add some detail. I'm going to add a couple vents in here. So I'm going to do extrude. I'm going to pull this down, and let's just do something like along these lines, right? Very cool. So now we have kind of this interesting looking vent inside. Maybe we can add a little emission to it, and I think that works. I'm going to turn on my wireframe so I can see my topology and see what's going on here. For this guy here, what I'm going to do, I'm going to press Ctrl E, and let's go ahead and scale this. Press W, move this down so we have kind of a nice detail there. I'm going to do Ctrl E again here. Let's do something like that. Press Ctrl E again and just pull this up. And let's go ahead and scale that. And then press delete. Because I don't think that's going to be seen because it's going to be pressed against the drone's body, right? Very cool. So I definitely want an edge here. I want to hold this shape, I want to hold this shape. I want to hold this shape. So I'm going to go ahead and do a bevel at 0.1. Okay. And now if I wanted to preview the whole thing, I can select it. I can press 3 and I can see what that looks like. I think that looks pretty cool, and that's exactly essentially what I was going for. We can turn off our wireframe if we wanted to have a better preview. We can decide if maybe we want to hold this shape inside there a little better, right? Let's do, I'm going to press 1, double click on this, bevel, turn this maybe something like that. And you know what? I'm going to add a segment there as well. And I'm going to take this extra segment, press W, and I'm going to pull this down. Okay. Go to object mode, press on our shape, and let's do a quick preview and see what that looks like. I think that's a little more interesting, right? It just adds like a fun little inset in there. Very cool. Press 1. All right, so that's going to be one side of our kind of our jet. Let's go ahead and we can clone this in a minute to the other side, right? So next, let's just maybe create the body of what we want the main shape to be of the drone. So for that, I'm gonna let's decide if we want to use a sphere or a box. I think I'm gonna go with the box. I'm just gonna simply make a big box, something like that. And I'm not sticking to any precise measurements, right? Just kind of having fun and eyeballing it. All right, so I do want to make sure that this is zeroed out and centered. Very cool. Let's go to mesh. Let's do a smooth. Nice. We can decide if we want more subdivisions or less. I think I want more. I'm going to go to 3. And let me just turn this up a little more. So something like that. All right, very cool. Now let's just decide what type of shape we want for this to be. Okay. So I think it would be interesting if instead of it was a plain sphere, we have something a little more oval, right? So I'm going to grab my scale and just kind of make this a little bit longer. And I don't mind the back being kind of this way, but I want the front to be almost sharper. So a little more, I guess the word I'm looking for is aerodynamic. I'm going to select these 4, hold on the shift key, press period on my keyboard, and do something like this. Now I'm going to press B, and if I hold down B, I can control the soft select. I'm going to go all the way up, and this is one way of doing it, right, if you want to do it visually. Another way of doing it is you can always go to soft select right here, and you can also control what the fall off mode is. Right now I'm on volume. Volume makes sense for multiple shapes. If you just have one shape, I guess you're just using surface. So surface or volume doesn't really matter. But in here you have a fall off radius, and that's the same thing, right? This is the control. And you can see what that looks like. What I'm gonna do next is I'm gonna press R, and I'm just gonna scale these in. And you can see what was happening. The whole thing is getting much sharper, right? Which is exactly what I was looking for. I'm gonna press W. And let me just kind of move this down. So now I have something that almost looks like the front of a jet or something. I think I like that. That's pretty cool for a drone, right? Let's go to object mode and take a look. I don't really need this grid right now. I'm going to turn that off so I can kind of focus on what I'm doing here. Now, one of the things I'm realizing is you can see the edge flow is kind of, it doesn't look nice, right? It doesn't seem very appealing. How can we fix this? Well, I can always select the shape. I can go to sculpting. I can click on smooth brush, make my brush a little bit larger. I can turn on active symmetry. So it's on both sides, and I guess I am on wrong axis, so I need Z. And now what I could do is I can kind of smooth this out and make this a little more, the edge flow to be a little better as far as the flow goes, right? You can see what's happening. It's kind of distributing the polygons a little better. I'm going to flatten this back a little more. and just overall, just make it feel cleaner. All right, a little softer. All right, very cool. I think that works. Next, what I need to do is I need to figure out how this connects to this, right? Now, if I click on this thing, you can see in the channel box, I have a long list of things that I've done to this mesh so far. Now, keep in mind, all of this is going to slow down your Maya the more you work. So it's a really good idea to once in a while to select it. And under your poly modeling, you have a little thing called clear history. If you clear your history, you can see all of this shape data was erased. And overall, just Maya will run smoother for you, especially if you're on an older computer. Keep that in mind. And that's what we want. So let's just maybe start getting this into a position by rotating this. I'm just kind of eyeballing it and having fun, right? I'm gonna press space bar. I can hold down Shift A. And honestly, in each one of these views, I would like the wireframe to be on. And I'm gonna find I guess this is the back view. And you know, this is a good time to talk about this. Now, if I press spacebar, you can see that my model is currently facing kind of the wrong way. Z is the front, Y is up, X is left and right. So my model, as I started modeling it, is not facing the proper direction. So what I would like to do is I'm going to select both of them, click on rotate, switch this orientation to world. Holding down the J key, I'm going to rotate this, let's see, I'm going to rotate this 90 degrees, right? And now you can see that my shape, if I turn my thing on, you can see that both shapes were turned, right? And now they're facing the proper direction. I don't really mind that the jet one got moved because I don't really have it positioned properly yet, right? So what I could do now is let's just get it into position and figure out where we want it to be and what the scale of this should be. So now I know this is the front, right? And let's decide what size we want this to be. So this is going to be like Princess Leia, big ears, kind of big jets. I'm going to make them kind of large and impressive. If you wanted to, we can switch this to object mode, and you can see the axes turned following the flow of the shape, which means I can also control the thickness of this, right? So maybe I'll do a little more, again, make it feel a little more aerodynamic, right? I think that's cool. Now we just have to decide how does this shape connect to this shape, right? So we need to kind of model that in. And we can do this in such a way where we can just mirror everything to the other side. So if you could actually, I'm gonna press B to turn off my soft select, but you can actually just even take all of this, press delete, double click on that, delete that, and now we have this, right? So now we can just flip it over whenever we want. But that's gonna maybe allow us to just focus on this here, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select, let's go ahead and isolate this for a second. And let's decide what do we want to do? We want to take this here and we want to connect it to the other shape. Okay. So maybe even this too. So let's do this. Let's circularize it, right? So it's round. And if we wanted to evenly distribute, I'm going to say off or on. I'm going to say off. And I can add more divisions. All right, so that's fine. And now what we could do is we can, let's just simply press delete. And what I would like to do before I get too far in, I do want to make sure that this, let's just fix this real quick, right? We don't want to have any edges that have 5 sides. So I'm gonna do this. Very nice. And what I would like to do next is let's just play around with this. I'm going to double click on this, press Control E, and let's just pull this in. And that's kind of cool. It's kind of going inside, right, the shape. Now if I do Control E again, I can click on this little blue icon. It's going to center it. Now I can pull this way. Let's do Control E again. Let's press W. And let's just move this whole thing up. So now I have this kind of a tube coming out. And if I jump out of isolate, you can see what that looks like, right? It looks like it's going inside this shape here. If I go into this view, I can grab this and maybe position it a little bit better so it's kind of centered, right? If we wanted to see through this, we can always turn on our X-ray and just see if it makes sense. Press E if we needed to rotate it maybe a little bit. And just kind of eyeballing it, but at the same time making it look good, right? I'm gonna press W, go in here, take a look. Definitely need to move this over. Okay. All right, I think that works. Now let's grab this. I'm gonna double click on this, press Control E, and I would like the middle of this to be a little wider, right? So do something like that. Very cool. Let's do this. Let's select both of these and we could combine them together. Why not? Clear our history. And now what we should do is if I click on move, what I would like to do is I want to, let me turn my grid back on so I can see where the center is. But what I would like to do is I want to mirror this to the other side. Now I want to make sure that this is aligned with the center of the grid. So what I could do is I can jump into my top view, right? And in here, if I select these points here, I can press R if I needed to scale it and make sure that it's nice and flat. Make sure this is flat. Press W, hold on the X key, and just snap this to the center of the grid. Very cool. All right, and before I move it over, I actually want to maybe bring this in just a little more. Something like that is good. Let's just select this and let's just go ahead and mirror it. Now we have the other side, right? But they're still currently as two pieces. I'm going to select both of them and merge them together. Clear my history. I can select the middle points here. And when I select the points, you can see it says there's 64. If I go to Edit Mesh, Merge, Options, let me just reset this. And if I say Apply, you can see that it went to 32. So I know these have been welded together, right? Very cool. That's a cool way to manually weld something if you needed to. Let's just take a look. This is what we have so far. Obviously this line doesn't look very good. So what we could do is we can decide if we want that or if we want to smooth this. If you wanted to keep the line, you could probably do fun things with it, right? Like we could maybe do something like that. We can add some more stuff here. Another thing we could do is maybe let's select both of these holding down the Shift key and press Control E. And why not just add kind of a fun line in between? I think that's kind of unusual and interesting, right? Very quickly. Just kind of using topology to our advantage, right? I'm going to jump out of this grid mode so I can see what I have. I'm kind of liking this. This is nice. I think it would be a fun detail if we added some more stuff here, right? Let's just maybe select these panels here and start adding a little more on. Before I extrude them, let's do something fun. Let's grab a knife tool and let's make a cut from here to here. And I'm gonna do one on this side too. I'm gonna do something like this. I think it would be fun to have shapes that have triangles in them. Just kind of almost like arrows pointing forward, right? I think that's cool. We can select this as well. Let's do Control E, pull this in. And we can do it kind of deep. I think that's interesting. Great. Go to object mode, let's take a look. Very nice. I think it would be cool if these pieces here had kind of almost like a vent, right? So we could do a couple things. We can have something let's go ahead and do something like this, and I'm going to turn my symmetry on X, right? So I know it's going to be on both sides. So maybe the bottoms of these have something like an energy coming out of it. So I'm going to press Control E. Let's scale this in. Control E, pull this in. So maybe there's some kind of a anti-gravity energy thing that is going to be coming out of here. But on this side, I think it would be fun if these were almost like vents, right? So maybe we had a vent kind of in front, kind of like a actual, think of like an airplane, right? I'm going to press Control E. Let's just do the same thing. I'm going to scale this in. And what I could do now is, let's do Control E again. And same thing, I'm going to pull this in. But this time, I'm going to press Control E one more time. I'm going to say keep faces together off and do something like that. Maybe do something along these lines. Press Control E and pull this in. And you can see what that looks like. It almost looks like some kind of a vent of some sort, right? Kind of a sci-fi vent. I think that's cool. We can decide what we want to do in the back of our little drone. Maybe this is going to be his tush. Let's select both of these here. And what I would like to do is I'm going to press R and I'm going to scale this in. So I'm going to make it look like this. So it's almost like flat. I'm going to press W and I'm going to move this out. Okay. Very cool. And what I could do now is I can press Control E. Do something like this, make it kind of skinny, and do Control E again and push this in. All right, so that's going to be kind of the back of the ship, or the drone, I mean. Very nice. If we wanted to add a edge loop, remember we can always do a cut tool. We can hold down the Command key, and we can see where the edge loops would be added, right? So none of this is working because it's adding it in a really strange place. So if I wanted to edge loop, if I want an edge loop just around the back part, how do I do it? Well, I could just simply, holding down the Shift key, go around the whole back like this, come up here, and just manually select all of these. And then do my favorite bevel like that. Maybe do something 0.1 with an extra segment inside. And you can see how it's going to hold the shape really nicely, right? We can do the same thing here as well. Let's double click on this, holding down the Shift key, double click on that, do a bevel. And here I could just leave it. I'm going to leave it on 0.3. That's fine. All right. If I press 3, I can see what that looks like. Very nice. All right. Actually, let's select the whole thing, and we have a bunch of history here, so I'm going to clear the history and press 3 and take a look and see if I like anything, and you know, if we want to add any more edges to support the shape. You know, these are going to be round, and I'm trying to decide if I want that or not. I kind of like this I do like it round. I think it's cool. It adds like a even more of a futuristic feel to this. At least I feel like it does. We can add something more here. It feels like this is a little too plain. I'm gonna select this, press Control E. I want to pull this up. Okay, I think that is interesting, almost like a little detailed panel coming up. So you can see the difference between modeling in preview mode and pressing 1 is huge, right? Absolutely huge. So like this is the actual game model, but if I'm in Maya playing around with beautiful imagery, I can press 3 or subdivide it and I have something completely different. So it's really important for new modelers to understand the difference, that it's completely two different methods, right? But again, I'm just creating something cool in Maya, so I don't really, you know, I don't need to worry about the shape actually looking like this. If I wanted this to be a game model and I wanted to bring this form to the game engine, I would have to, you know, add more divisions or create support edge loops to hold this shape. So again, keep all of that in mind. All right. It would be fun if we worked on the bottom of the drone maybe a little more. So let's just create some detail down here as well. Maybe there's something in the front where it's like, let's just do something like this and press Control E. I want to pull this in, then Control E. All right, and then what I'm going to do is I want to pull this out. So this is interesting because what I would like to do is I'm trying to figure out if I want to keep it more like, all right, I think I like this. I think I'm gonna go with that. I think that's gonna be cool. And you know what? It would be interesting if we did the same thing here as well. Let's do Control E. I'm gonna pull this in. Control E, scale this in, and pull this out. So now we have kind of these cool little things sticking out, helping him maneuver his flight. All right, very nice. Next, let's just add some, maybe it would be fun if he had some kind of weapons here on the side, right? So to add the weapons, what I would like to do is, I think it would be fun if we punched a hole through here. So I'm gonna press 1, and what I would like to do is I would like to select, let's just select, let's just select these 3 here on both sides. I'm gonna press delete, go to edge, double click on my edge on both sides. You can see what that looks like. And now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna bridge them. And when I bridge them, you can see what I did. I kind of punched a hole right through. And while this is still selected, I'm gonna go to bevel, and let's just add a additional segment inside, right? So now you have 3. So 1, 2, 3, very cool. If we go back into 3 preview mode, you can see what that looks like. Something really interesting. Kind of a really cool shape coming out from the side. All right, so now to add the weapons, I'm gonna turn the grid back on, and let me grab another cylinder and do something along these lines. I'm gonna press rotate, hold down the J key, and let's just put this sideways 90 degrees. Okay, and let's go ahead and also go back into the attribute editor, and let's do the same thing. I'm going to turn off my caps, right? And what I would like to do is I'm just going to put this into position on the side of where I want my weapons to be. So maybe somewhere in this area here, like maybe right behind this kind of an eye, right? So like right here. I'm gonna press R, maybe make it a little bit larger. And I think that looks pretty good. Let's go into perspective view. I'm gonna press W and make sure it's not touching kind of the side here. All right, I'm gonna grab this face here, press Control E and scale it in. Press W and just move this in this way. All right, and then what I would like to do is I'm gonna go to the top view. Let's turn on our X-ray, and let's just make sure that if we press E, right, we can rotate this to kind of match the angle of the side, right? So if I press W, I can make sure that this is somewhat aligned with this shape here. So if I press E, let's just make sure it looks nice, right? Press W, and I'm gonna move it away just a little bit because I want to create some kind of a connection here, right? So to do this, I'm gonna go back into my perspective view, go into object mode, select the shape, and let's actually go full screen. Let's go ahead and isolate this for a second. Let's go ahead and select this piece here and press Control E and just pull this out. Then press R, and just scale it up, right? So again, I'm trying to create some kind of a connection. All right, I'm gonna jump out of isolate and take a look. All right, so now if I press W, I can just pull this all the way in and make sure that it's way inside the body of this guy, right? And if I, let's go ahead and jump back into isolate. We don't really need this face here, so I'm gonna delete this face by pressing delete. Go to object mode, and let's take a look. So now we have something like this, where here's what I was trying to do. This is nice and straight, so it's facing the camera. And this is angled to match the drone's side body here, right? Which is cool because now that means we can grab this piece here, do a bevel. Let's change our fraction to something really small, like a, how about 0.05? And let's right click, go to faces, holding down the shift key, select all of that, do Control E, and just pull this piece in, right? Very cool. Let's take a look. So now we have something that looks like there's some sort of a connection, right? If I press 3, we can see what that looks like. And this looks great, this looks terrible, right? So I'm gonna press 1, and definitely let's go ahead and start working on this. So for this side, I'm gonna do Control E and do something like this. Press W, let's move it out of the way, and then maybe size it down a little more. So this looks a little more impressive as far as like a weapon. All right, I can do Control E one more time, maybe pull these in, and if we wanted to, we could do something like Control E, pull this in, and do something like that, right? And now I can just do something really simple like a poke. So I'm just gonna poke them and kind of connect everything together, right? Very cool. So now all we need is some kind of a weaponry or some kind of guns coming out from this side. So I'm gonna turn my grid off, and let's just decide how this is gonna work, right? So maybe from here we have some kind of a weapon, right? Let's select all of these faces, do Control E, do something like that. Control E one more time, pull this in. All right, Control E, pull this in even more. And this time what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna press W, and I'm gonna start pulling this out forward. And we can decide what the shape of this should be, but I don't know if you want to keep it round, or if you press R, you can do something straight. I think I want to go ahead and leave this. I think that's interesting. We could always make this wider if we wanted to. That's an option. I actually don't like that. So I do, but one thing that you want to make sure is that if you zoom out, you can see that this is straight, right? It has to make sense as far as aiming and maybe even rotating this. I think that makes kind of sense, right? So that's going to be our weapon. And for this to look like an actual weapon, let's do Control E, and let's do something like this. Then do Control E one more time and pull this in. Right, so maybe that's going to be kind of the point. Another thing we can do is we can select all of these points. We can press R and just scale them in a little more. So there's a little more shape to it, right? And very cool. Now to put it to the other side, I'm just going to select this and mirror it. And now I have two of them. Okay. If I select the whole thing, I could combine it into one, clear my history. I can press A or F, doesn't really matter. And let's select it, press 3, and let's take a look. So here we go. So now this is kind of our little drone so far. Now the next thing that I would do personally is I'm looking around here, you can see this right there, it doesn't look very nice. So let's clean this up. I'm gonna press 1 and let's double click on this shape here, isolate. And we definitely need to clean this up. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna select all of these edges going all the way around, holding down the Shift key. Just make sure we grab all of those. And you can see there's some problems here too, because this is not a quad, right? So that's a problem. I am going to make sure that I'm doing this on both sides. Very nice. I'm going to do a bevel. And I'll add one more segment inside there, so to make sure I hold the shape. If we wanted to fix this not being a quad, we can of course just quickly make a couple cuts if we wanted to, right? That's fine. And we have some issues here as well. Now I need to jump out of the isolate mode. All right, so now if I press 3, you can see that this looks much better and cleaner in there, right? Very cool. I think that looks nice. So as a final step, the only thing I would do personally is I think it would be cool if we added a few small details just going around, right? If you do something like super low poly, right? Because if we press 3 as the preview, it's going to automatically smooth it for us. So what we could do is just very quickly holding down the X key, I'm going to make sure it's centered. And from the side view, we could position these. I could do something like this. I can press W and let's figure out where we want this. So maybe we can do, let's put one right here. And make sure it's makes sense. Holding down the, I'm gonna press Ctrl D and put one like here. Select both of them and let's just mirror them across. So now I have something there. And now if we press 3, right, we can see what that looks like. So very quickly you can add some beautiful detail by just adding a bunch of boxes and spheres and adding even more right, even more detail. But I think, let me turn my grid off, and I can of course turn our ambient occlusion on so we can take a look. Let's say we're done. Let's say we want to now color this really quick and do a quick rendering, right? What I would do is I would select the whole thing, I would combine it into one shape, clear my history. So now I just have one. I can call this drone, right? And let's go ahead and turn our lights on. And for this to work, we need to bring in a sky dome light. And let's go ahead and go to channel or attribute editor and go to, let's click on the color, let's go to file, and let's grab an HDR real quick. I think that might work. I'm gonna say open. All right, I like this one, that's fine. If I wanted to, I can always go to show and let's turn off the lighting, right? So we can just see the Arnold HDR lighting. All right, and then to quickly add some materials to this, let's just do something like, let's do favorites, AI standard. In here I can go to presets and I can do a chrome or a brushed metal. Let's just try the chrome first, do a replace and see what that looks like. You can see very quickly you can add insane awesomeness, right, to this, to your model. And then if you want to do a quick render, you just come here, right, and decide your preset of how high the resolution should be. I'm gonna go pretty low at first, and just make sure you pump this up a little bit for the quality, right? So this is where your resolution quality of the image would be. And then also the other thing you want to do with Arnold and Maya is you want to change your volume. You want to change your samples to make sure that it doesn't have too much noise. So now if you render this out. You can see what that looks like. At first it's gonna render out the background image for the HDR. So turn that off, you just click on it, and in the camera, just turn the camera off. And that's gonna allow you to render your drone without the background image. Okay, so now you can just spend a little time setting up lights, and to do more lights, you just go to Arnold and add a couple, I would add 3 point lights, 3 area lights, and then you can play around with different materials, right? And the materials are really cool because you can see them really fast. So if I wanted to go to material attribute in here, I can change my preset and see, maybe let's see brushed metal, see what that looks like. All right, so you can spend some time playing around and setting up your render. And then one more thing, if you wanted to do multiple materials for the same shape, you just simply select the pieces that you want to apply a different material to. So if I hold on the Shift key, I can grow my selection, for example. And let's say I want this part to be a different material from the rest, right? What I can do is I can just simply right-click, apply a different material to this, right? So if I go to favorites, I can apply something different, and maybe in here, I want it to be black, right? Or if I want to do another preset, I could do it that way. So you can have the same mesh with many, infinite amount of materials, right? A quick way to paint something and set up, beautiful render. So keep that in mind in case you are new. All right, thanks a lot. So I'll see you next one.